So this is Tuesday, the 1st of August. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is your Frontier opening bell, getting the new month started. But just how did we finish off the final day of July on the Nigerian market? 1.11% pulled back. The market fell roughly 600 billion naira on Monday to start the new week as investors got really choppy on Nigerian exchange. MTN, the largest telco by market value, fell by more than 3%. The shares of Zenith Bank also fell yesterday, as well as big other counters. The market's been down in the last few sessions. Towards the end of last week, on the back of those disappointing earnings that came from the first half of the year and the second quarter, in the main, on the back of government policies that have been roiling the country, including the elections that was conducted in February, as well as the Naira exchange rate. So we've seen big names in the cement sector, Dangote Cement, Bar Cement, Dangote Sugar, as well as big names, Nestle, Cadbury, Unilever, Nigerian breweries, Guinness Nigeria, owned by Diageo and others, reporting higher net finance costs, as well as earnings per share in the decline in the period under review, including exchange transaction loss within the period. So the market's taking back a bit of that. But the market in the main was up by roughly 1.8 trillion in the month of July, by the way, as we saw those dividends that were declared for the full year 2022 and those earnings that came in early. The banking sector, of course, making some gains as we speak. So we were down below the 65,000 threshold on Monday on the Nigerian exchange. Let's push Nigeria aside and go to the BRV. I mean, you can see the composite coming very strongly above the 200 level in Abidjan, 0.25% on Monday. The Egyptian market added roughly 0.25% to start the rest of the frontier markets on Monday. 17,595. The Nairobi market in the green by 20 basis points. And of course, the GSE up by 0.6%. Couple of news coming through from South Africa. So let's get to that in a few minutes here on the show. But first, let's check in with our folks in East Africa. What's making the big news, big splash this Tuesday, the 1st of August, as far as economic news is concerned? Kenya's inflation came into about 7.9%. That's a bit of a downside from 8%. Just a few retraces and few notches there from the previous month. The Centum listed on the market, it says it's made about 33% return on Eurobonds trade that it did for the company, while the CMA, which is the Capital Market Authority equivalent of the SEC, is looking to support the creation of Kenya's carbon credit market, which is the way to go. Right now, everyone's getting on that bandwagon. But it's good for the climate, it's good for humanity, it's good for the environment, and everyone. Of course, we look at the record hot period, the month of July, in recent history, recorded history, as it were. So all hands on deck to ensure that the climate adaptation is taking the front burner across the board. And you have intra-East Africa trade, by the way, down by $1.3 billion because of the trade barriers that still exist between brothers and sisters in East Africa, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Kenya, by the way. But of course, that have been resolved, as well as including taxes. But of course, we're seeing a number of moves or initiatives within the corridor, East African corridor, to reduce those trade barriers and help intra-Africa trade. Let's get it regionally. They got it across the entire continent. And the U.S. is tightening its monetary policy, which may strain Tanzania's economic, according to experts. They're looking at the relations between Tanzania and what happens to the monetary policy out of Washington as far as the U.S. Fed is concerned, by the way. Let's get on to West Africa. And I just talked about a little bit about the earnings hurting hot by the macroeconomic environment. Yesterday, President Tinubu delivered a presidential address, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. He spoke about the new whole package, expansionary palliatives, including billions of naira to be put in the pockets of small and medium enterprises, including nano businesses, of course, include students in road transportation, bus provision, as well as the fight against corruption in the oil sector, as well as the appointment of a special investigator to probe the affairs of the Central Bank of Nigeria and other unnamed government entities. All of that is on the block. The president is currently in Benin Republic to attend the inauguration of the president today. But of course, we're getting a special trade official of the United Kingdom today. It will be closing Nigeria's trading day later today. Mr. Cleverly is the one doing that. He's on a 3-nation African tour. He was in Ghana yesterday. He's in Nigeria today and will be moving on to Zambia for the week in his 3 nations. So as part of the United Britain's looking to expand its frontiers across its big economies, frontiers on the continent, which of course, English-speaking, Zambia, Nigeria, and of course, Ghana as well. Talk about the earnings and the dividends that lifted the NGX in the month of July. Pushed us aside. The central bank yesterday issued a notice that exemptions can now be given to microfinance banks and PMIs, which are primary mortgage institutions, which I will call micro mortgage banks, will not longer be allowed be considered to pay those fees, which has to do with cash withdrawals limits, which was set previously by the central bank in their relationship with correspondent banks. So there's a fee if you're doing huge certain limits of transactions in cash. Now, the notice by the central bank, the 2-paragraph statement, says that microfinance banks and PMIs are critical to the financial intermediation for the poor and low-income Nigerians, and they should be exempt from those interbank fees that's being paid for cash withdrawals limit. That is part of tweaking things at the back end to allow financial intermediation and, of course, easy access to finance by companies and institutions that are the bottom of the pyramid. The Ghana's growth forecast is around 1.5% for this year, but that is expected to go much higher to about 4.9 in 2026. And Moody's has cut Cameroon's B2 rating, sovereign ratings to CAA1 because of the cash management issues that the Central African Republic country has got. And Liberia has overtaken Panama in Latin America as the world's largest ship registry. That's according to a new data, which was released late last week. Let's move on. Get on to see the Southern Africa's trading day. And of course, a couple of economic news coming on the radar for this 1st of August, getting you into the new month, the second month in the third quarter. South Africa is looking at a couple of economic market news right now. MTN is looking to report headlines earnings per share of about between 506 and 577 cents in the month of August. We're expecting the interim report to be in the new month starting today. Telkom, which is also another telecom operator, saw market price up by 5% because of the first quarter performance, but there's still a whole lot of downside when you look at the power cuts or outages in South Africa, or what you call the rolling blackouts on the back of Eskom. We'll see how that will reflect as well in MTN Group's numbers when they are released in a couple of days. Keep that in mind. Botswana and South Africa are working together looking for funds for $230 million minerals rail. The idea is to build a rail line that will connect Botswana, which is Africa's number one diamond and number one in the world diamond producing state, with South Africa to provide that rail line that is specially built to support minerals extraction in the two countries. So that's the deal on the table. Zimbabwe's trade deficit narrows to about $85 million in the month of June. That's it's technically finishing off the first half of the year, while Heineken yesterday reported operating profits down by 22% because demand in emerging markets from Nigeria to a few other countries in Africa and elsewhere is on the way down. But the Heineken CEO is optimistic that the brewing giant will remain on course and its products remain top brand as far as demand is concerned, globally speaking. And Process is looking to sell part of PayU to Rapid in South Africa for about $610 million. That's quite a chunk of money on the table there. But of course, Process is taking that onto his back pocket. Let's see what the headlines looking like this Tuesday in North Africa. Egypt's looking to grow 4.2% as far as the economy is concerned, as according to Morgan Stanley. In the full year 2023-24 for Egyptians fiscal period, and Morocco's trade deficit widened about 61.6% over the first half year. That's quite disappointing, if you ask me. And AFDB and Morocco's Banque Centrale Populaire have signed $70 million deal to boost Africa's foreign trade. Of course, Morocco's got a very strong trade with Europe. Now, EFTB is supporting Morocco so that it could trade a whole lot stronger with the rest of the continent to the south. And finally, Tunisia's city cars posted about 4% jump in turnover in the first half of this year. That's January to June reported. There's a whole lot more in the earnings box as we go the rest of the week and the rest of July. Keep your eyes on. We've got a whole lot coming through for you. So that's some of the big stories that will be moving the markets across Frontier Africa. And that's your show for today. Have a great day, everyone. Welcome to August, and I'll see you tomorrow.